Now, since Jesus is approaching and will enter Jericho, it's worth reminding ourselves of the importance of this city, because in the Old Testament, as Joshua leads God's people into the Promised Land, he very famously fights the Battle of Jericho. And the trumpets blast, they walk around the city 7 times, and everybody who grew up in Sunday school knows what happened. The walls came tumbling down, right? Jericho's walls came tumbling down. But in Jesus' day, Jericho's prominence continued. Now it's a wealthy city. It's a flourishing oasis. It houses winter resorts at this time for rulers and rich people in ancient Israel. And it's also a strategic juncture in the ancient road network. So the Jericho Road was used by merchants and armies and pilgrims, and it was of great importance. Its location is actually what made Zacchaeus wealthy, as we're going to see in the next section. Now, in Jesus' time, the road from here to Jerusalem was about 25 kilometers, and it was notoriously dangerous and difficult. It was not a safe road. People were lost. They were left for dead on this road. But this is the road that Jesus travels. And it's here that he finds this blind beggar. Now, how does the beggar hear of and respond to Jesus? Look at verse 36. And hearing a crowd, so he's sitting on the side of the road, hearing a crowd going by, he inquired what this meant. Loud noises, right? And they told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. So this man can't see, but he can hear. Like God gives us 5 senses. His eyesight is dark, but his hearing is good. And he hears this loud noise, and he says, what's going on? What's happening? What's that all about? And the crowd says to him, the famous Jesus of Nazareth is here. Now, I want you to notice the title that the crowd gives Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth. And you may remember that Nazareth was where the riffraff came from. It was not a distinguished title. It was like saying, here comes that guy who's from the other side of the tracks. He's coming to our part of town. And this is now contrasted, very interestingly, with what the blind man says. Look at verse 38. And he cried out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And those who were in front rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, the cry for mercy recalls the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector earlier in the chapter. But here it's a powerful, powerful moment, and I don't want you to miss this. So I want you to picture this scene. Let's put it in modern day terms. Let's just picture you're walking down the street in New York City, or maybe you're riding the subway. And I want you to picture this man kind of over on the side of the street. He's lying down. He's sitting on the subway, and he's got this sign that says, I'm hungry. Please help me. In the ancient world, you may remember, there was no welfare system. Unless this man had a family, no one was going to help him. People with disabilities like blindness, he's blind, he can't see, they would be reduced to begging for survival. So he's on the ground, he's begging for food, and he hears this noise, this commotion behind him, and he says, what's that? Looking around in the dark, what's going on? And somebody over here shouts, Jesus of Nazareth is here. And I picture him as soon as he hears that, because Jesus' fame is spreading. As soon as he hears that, he perks up. He starts looking around in the darkness with excitement. And here's the thing. This guy starts shouting, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Mercy! 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 And this struck me this week because if you don't know, this is the first time in Luke's gospel that anyone uses his royal title, the Son of David. The first time in the gospel is right here. The first person to recognize Jesus' kingly authority is this blind beggar sitting on the side of the road. This man who couldn't see cries out in faith, He cries out to Jesus, trusting that he is the Messiah who can actually heal him. In desperate faith, he raises his voice, shouting, hoping that Jesus will hear him. And how does the crowd respond? Do they say, that's right, he's right? No, they say, silent, be quiet. We're over here trying to take a selfie with Jesus. Shh, you're interrupting our time. I mean, that's what's going on. Everybody in the crowd thinks he's a nuisance. In fact, they're probably saying, what's wrong with this guy? Why won't he be quiet? Somebody talk to him. Maybe they even go and they kick him. They say, shh, be quiet. Now watch what Jesus does in verse 40. It says, and Jesus stopped and commanded him to be brought to him. Wow. Now, church, I want you to circle. I want you to underline. I want you to highlight that phrase, Jesus stopped. Because some of us in this room right now are resonating with the blind man. In your life, people overlook you. People tell you to be quiet. People act like you have nothing to offer. And I want you to see today that for us, like the blind man, Jesus stops. He says, you bring him to me. And now he asks him this question of all questions, the question. Verse 40, he says, and when he came near to him, he asked, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want? And I imagine you could hear a pin drop in this moment. Because this crowd, who are really basically fanboys and fangirls for Jesus, which what I mean by that is they're people who are enamored with Jesus' fame but really have no interest in really following him. They are stunned that Jesus would stop and talk to this outcast. In fact, I picture Jesus looking at this man. He's looking at him. The man's probably just weeping. His tears are streaming down his face. And he tenderly asks him the question, what do you want? What do you want? And again, it's clear what this man needs. Like Jesus is not surprised. But Jesus wants him to search his heart and to voice it. Do you want me? Do you believe in me? And church, the reality is all of us were once the blind beggar. Have you forgotten when you were there? Don't forget that for us, Jesus stopped. Jesus asked, what do you want? Now others, he may be stopping today, right now. He's meeting you on your own Jericho road. And will you respond like the blind man? What's the blind man saying? Verse 41, he says, Lord, let me recover my sight. Lord, I want to see. Do you want to see today? Some of us, we might be walking through life blind, but we don't recognize that reality. You may remember a key theme of Luke's gospel is this: Jesus came to save lost people who don't know they're lost. They think they're going the right way on the Jericho road. They think they have it all together, but one day they're walking along and they fall off the ravine. They don't recognize they're alone. They're desperate. It's dark. Some of us, you may even be walking through life, you feel like that. You've opened up the Bible to look for the map, but you haven't gotten anywhere. And again, I'll say the map is not helpful if you don't know the destination is the arms of Jesus. To get there, you have to surrender. You have to let him open your eyes. Look at what Jesus does in verse 42. Jesus says to him, recover your sight. Your faith has made you well. And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise to God. So here's the first pronouncement. The phrase, recover your sight, both in the request and here and then back in chapter 4 of Luke, really interesting. Recovering your sight, it points to the fact that something was lost. And it clues us into the larger biblical story that our relationship with God was lost back in the garden with Adam and Eve when sin came in the world, and that sent shockwaves throughout all of human history, in all of our hearts. And it is only Jesus who can come and open our eyes and save us. And when that happens, our response must be one of glory and praise.